aside, and hopefully, I think I won. I think I convinced you all that we are headed in the right direction, right? Or maybe not. And now, of course, I'm going to try the opposite way, right? In the next few minutes, I'm going to try and convince you all that the advent of AI is the end of humanity. This is the worst and possibly the last invention that we've made. All right, so let's see if I succeed this time. We'll try it the other way. If you fail, try again. So I'm going to try a different tack and see how that works. So now we're going to be talking about the many misuses of AI, right? And because if there weren't any misuses, why would we be here, right? Why do you need an ethics class on something that is amazing and that creates no problems at all? Of course you don't. So what I'm going to try and show you now is why everything I've said before is completely wrong, is completely miscued. I've tried to manipulate you over the last few minutes, and actually we're all about to die. Okay, so rather than personalization, what AI actually offers us is surveillance. Okay, it brings with it this idea that we have no more privacy. In order for something to be personalized to me, something or someone needs to know everything about me. I have to give up everything. My feelings, my DNA, my, my thoughts, right? My plans, everything has to be known in order to personalize it, obviously. Availability, I would say more like manipulation. Yeah? The more available this technology is, the more power it has. And the more we interact with it, the easier it is for some people, and usually that's a very small group, to abuse this power. Because even if iPhones are now affordable and available, that doesn't make us Apple, right? And even if I can access ChatGPT, I have no idea what's going on behind that black box, right? That veil of ignorance, perhaps in a negative way. Human 2.0, I would say more like less human or even less humane, maybe. And let's see if I can convince you about that. We were talking about medicine, and we were talking about developing cures. We were talking about finding out personal treatments to each of us. But a system that is capable of doing this will have to be a very, very powerful system. It will have to have access to information. Probably it will have to be connected to various different kinds of experimental tools, access to people to run these experiments, logistics, money, finance. It'll have access to all these things. And you know what? Sometimes the problem with AI is that we tell it to do one thing and it sort of does it, but maybe not in the way we want it. Now imagine I give this all-powerful AI system that is constantly improving itself, right? Because it can code better than humans. We already know that. That's a fact. It has access to the internet, so it's growing in its knowledge and information. It has all these sensors, so it's knowing. It has a perception of the world. So this self-learning tool that is all-powerful and stronger and smarter than us has now been given the task, cure cancer. Excellent. A laudable task. A wonderful project. How does it go about doing it? What is the most efficient way? Because AI is nothing but efficient. Well, the most efficient way to cure cancer, obviously, is either to kill all the humans, no more cancer, or to infect everyone with cancer and then test it out. If I get 1 billion or 7 billion people with cancer, and then on each of them give them different kinds of medications, no time I'll know how to cure it. Easy. I'll just run all these experiments on them. Well, I wanted to cure the cancer, but the AI understood get rid of the cancer along with the humans, right? Easy. No good. So an all-powerful tool that we don't understand, that's smarter than us, that can do anything it wants, may not do what we want it to do or in the way that we want it to do it. And can we just pull the plug? That's what Obama said a few years ago. In an interview on AI, Obama said, well, you know, these smart technologies, we have to make sure that someone is standing there to pull the plug. Give me a break. I mean, if this technology is smart enough to cure cancer and to run an experiment in the whole world, it won't know how to blackmail the guy holding the plug. It won't know how to bypass that electrical power source. Of course it will. Easy. So, the danger of what you ask for is not always what you want, or in that correct way. But that's maybe far-fetched. That's maybe, in the future, this AGI stuff. Let's talk about the now, the here. The sensors that we're using, very, very, maybe simple forms of AI. Here are two examples, right? MCAS sensors failed. One single sensor in an airplane failed, and it led to 2 crashes, killing 346 passengers. Why? The sensor that failed was the sensor monitoring the tilt of the plane. And what the plane thought was happening is that it's going into a dive, right? That it's going to lose power in its engines. So what is the response to that when you're going up too high? You correct your velocity, you correct your altitude and your angle of the nose, and you go into a steep nosedive. Unfortunately, if the sensor's misreading what's going on and you're actually really flying straight and suddenly go nosediving into the ocean, people die. And that's what happened. There were 2 crashes in this, I think it was a Boeing plane, if I remember correctly. I can't remember the model exactly. And that's it. One single sensor failed, 2 planes went down. So we're going to let that technology take over everything? What's going on? What about this idea of facial recognition? We talked about privacy. We talked about knowledge and surveillance, data. Facial recognition software is growing and expanding and is being implemented everywhere. Actually, it's implemented right in your phone. You're using that to unlock your phone. That's giving up your face as an access key card, right? The key to your phone has become your face. Now, in certain countries, say China, they're creating what's called a social scoring system, right? And that's this system where we say, as the government, what does it mean to be a good citizen? What does it mean to be a not so good citizen? And we track everything you're doing, and we're giving you grades and points. Do something good, you'll get a higher score. Do something bad, we'll take it a bit lower. But what is good and bad? Of course, that's a hard question. For instance, it was discovered that if you are profiled as a gamer, right, you like playing computer games, your score goes down. Why? I don't know. You're buying your groceries using your face. You're walking down the street and you're being monitored. And in the US, this is being used by police. It's wonderful technology, right? We'll solve crime. We'll find out who was the killer. Well, maybe not. Tell that to Najir Parks. This is the image that the police had of Najir Parks committing a felony and escaping from arrest, resisting arrest, assaulting a police officer. And the AI system software, the facial recognition software, identified Najir as the guy. This was the picture the system had. This is Najir. And it took a year for us to understand that the system made a mistake. It wasn't the same guy. But throughout that year, what happened? In and out of court, in and out of jail, lose your job, lose your friends. An 8-month pregnant woman in the US was arrested 2 years ago, because a hit came up in the system saying that she was identified as a carjacker. 8 months pregnant, she stole the car, cops came, took her to jail, and after that, she almost had a miscarriage from that, when it turned out that the system was wrong. That apparently an 8-month pregnant woman can't really easily hotwire a car. Use your senses. What about private information and data? In Nebraska, cops subpoenaed personal messages between a mother and daughter on planning to arrange for the daughter to go get an abortion. They subpoenaed that information. Facebook gave it. They have to. And now they're going to jail for that personal interaction on Facebook, because abortion's now illegal. Private conversations, I don't think so. Chats, obviously not. Cell phones, very soon, obviously not, right? Recording devices, all that. It's becoming so easy to do it. and with facial recognition software, with policing, and with the courts cooperating with these authorities, then we have these infringements of our privacy. There's no more private and public. The lines have become blurred, and we are exposed everywhere. Now, some people would say this is a good thing, right? This is an excellent thing. We want the laws to be upheld. Well, let's hope that those are very good laws. Let's hope that there isn't a wave of populism going around the world, right? That we can today ban abortion, tomorrow refuse women to walk on the street, the next day maybe limit who can go to university. Let's hope that these laws never pass, right? But let's create the technology that will allow people to enforce these laws really easily and really efficiently. And in essence, what's happening is a very old idea. In essence, what we are creating is this image. If any of you recognize this, this is from the TV series Andor, in which there's a great, like a Star Wars spin-off, right? And there's a great episode in which he's in a prison, and this prison is like futuristic, or I could never understand if Star Wars is in the future or in the past. But the idea is based on an old idea known as the panopticon. I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but this is this idea of a prison in which you become your own guard. And why is that and how is that? Well, here in the middle, we will have the guards, and all around will be the prisoners. Now, the prisoners can never see if they're being watched. They never know. They might be watched all the time or never. You don't know. And so, says Jeremy Bentham, who came up with this idea, slowly you will internalize that you need to behave in the proper way. You need to follow the rules, because at any second, someone will barge in and say, I did this, because they're watching all the time. And ultimately, what the panopticon creates is a system in which we self-regulate, because no one is actually in here. Or no one needs to be in there at some point, right? If I can always be watched and always be shown to have done something wrong, actually no one needs to watch me at all. And so, okay, you may say, well, you know, this is science fiction, this is realistic, but I would claim that it's not very far from what's going on today, right? So Facebook obviously is not the police, right? Thank God. And it's not the government. Nevertheless, what has happened, and this, we'll talk about this in one of the sessions, an idea that came up, and this is what Michel Foucault said in his critique of the panopticon, is that surveillance capitalism, the modern version of surveillance, has flipped over. It's no longer that the authorities need to watch me. It's that I want to be seen. Because if I'm not seen, I don't exist. And that's what has happened. If you're not in social media, you're not really alive anymore. You don't really matter. You don't have a voice, and you don't know anything. So actually, the role of the ruling is to tell people who's not allowed to be watched. So the tables have turned. We're going to ban you if you don't follow the rules, right? And you want to follow the rules. You need to follow the rules, or else you don't belong. You're not in society anymore. So we're regulating ourselves. But nevertheless, we're still going to use this technology to help us become better. In Japan, following the assassination of the Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, they started a project called behavior detection. And the idea was to use machine learning, an AI system coupled with facial recognition, to identify potentially violent activity before it happens. So I will learn, or the system will learn, to identify signs that you are about to commit a crime. This is not made up stuff. This is happening today. In the job market, what we're seeing is that AI systems are coming into play, and we're no longer being interviewed by people. If any of you have recently applied for a job, you'll know this, right? CVs are not being sifted by the managers, they're being sifted by these programs. The interviews are being conducted via video recording, and then they're not analyzed by HR, they're analyzed by a machine learning system, which tries to tell you whether the amount of times you blinked in a minute equates with a good employee or a bad employee. Whether the rate in which you move your mouse shows your personality. Whether the tone of your voice indicates if you're an extrovert or an introvert. It's mapping and categorizing us into groups. 99% of Fortune 500 companies rely on AI software. And this is just expanding. So it's not just the elites, it's everywhere. And what does this create? It doesn't just create that we find the best candidates for the job. Well, of course it's not that guy. What it creates potentially is something in which we all try and fit that mold. Because if we don't fit that mold, we are invisible. AI can only see what it's taught to see. And if you don't fit the criteria, it just doesn't see you anymore. Disappeared. Think about a job, no chance. Show creativity, innovation, personality, forget about it. All you need to do in your CV is use keywords and key phrases that the AI system, that the software correlates with a successful candidate. That's how you get a job. Here in Zurich, there was a paper that was published last year pertaining to show that we can identify through waves, brain waves, your sexual orientation. By looking at you and testing, I can say if you're gay, straight, or whatever. Sounds great, does it? Not really. So first of all, who the hell said that sexuality is binary? That's a presupposition of the research project, right? Who said that? Well, if it is binary, then obviously you belong to one of the two. So you're already being cataloged into a certain mold. And think about this in the hands of Putin, or in the hands of some African dictator who doesn't really like homosexuals. What's happening then? Cars will be roaming the street, checking our brainwaves and taking us away to jail because it decided that we are gay or straight. What about warfare? In the Ukraine and Russian war now, we're seeing the use of suicide drones has become the most used weapon in this war. These drones loiter in the air and they seek out targets of opportunity autonomously, no one's controlling them, and they dive bomb and explode on that target when the system decides that that's a good target to destroy. Life and death is being given to these systems. In the war in Gaza, we're seeing AI being used to identify targets, legitimate targets for attack. The system is generating 100 targets per day. A very nice number, I'd say. Very efficient. 100 legitimate targets per day to bomb. Why? What due diligence is going on? What is in that algorithm to decide that this building should be destroyed? I don't know. They don't know either. And yet it's being implemented. In social media, in our knowledge, in information, we're discovering this idea known as an echo chamber and a filter bubble. What's happening is our life is being closed in by an algorithm. We see only what the algorithm thinks that we should see or want to see. And so, we constantly see the same thing, right? We see reflections of ourselves. If I'm a MAGA Republican, everyone's a MAGA Republican on my Twitter feed. If I'm a liberal Democrat, Pizzagate, who are these lunatics, right? It's all a function of what the algorithm thinks and decides to show us. And the result is political polarization. We're seeing this in every country, in Europe, in the US. We're seeing it everywhere. People are becoming more and more disconnected. They only see the type of information that they're used to seeing. And it's strengthening their positions. Fake news. Well, I like the Pope, but I don't want him to wear this $3,000 coat. AI generated, of course. I don't know how many of you saw this picture, but it was a big deal. What about this little nugget that happened a few weeks ago? Let's listen in.
It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again.
Okay. That was, of course, AI-generated voice, not real. Oh, well, okay, it's going on. And yet, to my mind, it sounded just like Biden. I think it's excellent. AI does that perfectly. And that robocall was sent out to voters, right? They received that phone call telling them, oh, stay at home, don't vote, you don't need to, it's fine. Okay, maybe that wasn't the most convincing of audio recording. But remember, this is generation 1. From here on out, this technology is just going to improve. So we're just seeing the beginning of it. And that's why, of course, AI might be the very last technology that we ever invent. Okay, and now the question is, have I convinced you this time that we're heading towards doom? I don't know. Yeah, you seem a bit more convinced. Turning point for us to discuss about the course. So, of course, I started off with the misuses of AI, the great uses of AI, and then the misuses of AI. And the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, or we're not sure where the truth is quite yet. And that's why we have this course, right? We have this course in order to try and decide where's the truth. And not in general terms, but in specific and practical questions. And so what we're going to do over the next few months is dive into different domains and social activities, right? And we're going to do that together, and we're going to look at case studies in different domains, and we'll take some philosophical inspiration that are relevant to those topics, and try in each session to understand a different issue. So next week, we're going to start with sort of the basics, and we're going to talk about the foundation of any AI system, which is algorithmic decision making. And we'll try and understand sort of what does that mean, what is behind it, what are the perils related to algorithmic decision making, and how can we think about that from an ethical standpoint. Then we'll shift to discussing warfare, the violent uses of these technologies. We sort of touched on that a bit, on the Ukraine war, the war in Gaza. How are these systems being used in order to kill other human beings? We'll move on from there to deal with the other sort of aspect. How are these systems being used to heal and save people in mental health, in physical and regular health care? And we'll think about sort of what type of ethical issues arise there. Then we'll devote a session to this issue of surveillance. We touched on it today a bit, and we'll dive into that surveillance capitalism, privacy, what are these issues, what is AI doing in all this. And then we'll have a very special session on art and creativity, in which we're going to have a guest coming. The guest is Roman Lipski. He's an artist, Berlin-based painter, who does collaborative work with AI systems. So he's a professional painter, and what he does is he works with IBM here in Zurich to create what's called a quantum blur. Basically, he collaborates with the system in order to create art. And he's going to come in here and he's going to give us a demonstration about how he works with these systems, how he does that, what he actually does. And on that point, I want to say also that the day before that, so this happens on the 26th of March, and I'll send out an email to explain this. On the 25th of March, on Monday, the day before, we're going to have an open public event to discuss AI and art, in which Roman and another AI artist who works with robotics, they're going to come here and they're going to discuss sort of what they're doing, and it's an event that I'm organizing, and you're all welcome to join, and I hope you all join, and I'll try and incentivize you to join, but we'll see. I need to think of a clever way to do that. But that'll be on Monday evening, and I'll send an email explaining about that. Nevertheless, on the session here on Tuesday, so Roman is going to show us how he works together with what he calls an AI muse. Okay, so we'll get into that. Then we'll have a session on democracy. What are the dangers that AI pose to the values of democracy, to the rule of law, to the foundational structure of our political system? Okay, we'll move on to talk about knowledge, information, and journalism. What is the future of the internet? Where will we have trustworthy information with all this huge amounts of synthetic data that's coming up and appearing everywhere throughout the world? Will we still be able to trust anything on the internet? We'll have to think about that. Then we'll devote a session to love, of course. How can we talk about artificial agents without thinking whether and how they can be our friends, our partners, maybe our lovers. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. What does love mean when an AI system can show empathy and emotions? We're seeing this coming up all over the world, and we'll dive into that. We'll talk about education. What is the future of education? How do we see that coming up? What is fairness in education when we are being navigated and being pushed in certain directions? Then we'll move away from these specific domain-related questions, and in the final sessions, we'll ask more general questions. What is the issue of identity and personhood when we can create avatars, duplicate twins, right? What does that mean for us and our individuality when these AI systems are coming up and extending lives? When my son that died, hypothetically horrible, and is brought back to life, what does that mean? Okay, we'll talk about the future of work. What is the meaning that is left for us if AI takes over everything? And can we still find meaning in work, right? What is the future? Are we going towards a leisure society in which we just have fun all day long, or something else? Finally, we'll talk about artificial general intelligence, AGI. That's what this medical diagnosis example that I gave, the curing cancer example, right? What does it mean to be an intelligent system? How do we measure intelligence? Can we do that without racial background assumptions, right? Eugenicist ideas, is that even possible? Is there a notion of intelligence that we can track? What does it mean for an artificial system to be beyond human capability? And we'll talk all about that. And finally, we'll have a concluding session. We'll bring everything together, and we'll try and answer the question. Are we going in the good way or the bad way? Or maybe neither, I don't know. Okay, so that's the course overview. And now let's talk about the assessment a bit. So in Zurich, the assessment is between 0 and 6. For those of you who don't know, a 4 is a passing grade. And the way to get a passing grade in this course is very easy. My goal is for all of you to come out with a 6. I want everyone to get an A+. I don't want anyone to get a low grade here. But you got to work for it, just a bit. How are you going to do that? 2 ways. One, you're going to come here to class. You're going to help me think about these issues by writing discussion questions. Okay? You saw the topics of the sessions. You saw it's on the syllabus. It's on the OLAT. Take a moment and think with yourself. What is a critical and interesting question that can be asked about that issue? If we're dealing with mental health AI, can a psychology bot empathize with me? What would it be for such a machine to have the capability to empathize? Talking about the future of work. Is there meaning when AI sort of takes over all the workplace? What does that still mean? So I want you to prepare those questions, write them down on a piece of paper, bring them here to class, and give them to me before class starts. And then I'm going to read some of them out loud randomly, and we'll talk about them. Now, it's not only present the questions, but come with an answer also. Okay? Think about how to answer that question. Defend a position. You don't need to do a dissertation on that topic. Okay? You just need to give us a brief answer. And I put up in the reading, recommendation reading, a lot of different sources and articles, podcasts, movies, novels, that you can use those in order to stimulate your mind to think about these questions. Every session that you participate in with a discussion question gives you some credit towards the end. For every 3 sessions you participate, you get half a point. Very easy. That means in order to get the 1.5, 25% of your grade, just means come to 9 sessions and bring a question with you. That's it. And you're guaranteed 25%. Easy. Take 20 minutes, half an hour, think about the session that's coming up, skim through an article, watch a YouTube video, think of an interesting question that we can discuss here on that topic. And you'll get credit. Next, essays. You're each required to write 3 essays. Now, when I mean an essay, a short essay. I don't want to have to read 30 essays of 5 pages each, okay? I'm going to die. I have a lot of things to do. And ChatGPT can't grade the papers for me. No good. So I want a short essay. What does that mean? I want 500 words, 600 words. If I see anything over 700 words, I'm going to send it back. I'm just not going to read it, okay? I really can't put the time into it. I'm sorry. I want to give you feedback. I want to see what you write, but I can't do that if it's too long. So what is a good essay? A good essay takes an idea, presents it, presents the sources that sort of bring up that notion, and critically evaluates it, tries to present arguments against it, for it, discusses it in 1 page, a page and a half, no more than that. Okay? If you have any more questions about the essays, you can ask me and I'll gladly help you think about it. You need to write 3 of these essays. You can do that whenever you want throughout the semester, but you have to do it before the session that we're going to talk about that topic. So if you're going to talk, let's say you want to write an essay about warfare, about AI being used as machines, as killing machines, right? Killer robot, it's called. You have to send me that paper before our session on warfare, okay? So that I can read it before and evaluate it and see your original thoughts. I don't want you to mimic what I'm saying, okay? I want you to think about it on your own. Come up with an interesting idea. So you need to write 3 of those essays whenever you want. You just have to send it the Monday before class on that topic. That's the requirement. And if you do all that, you're going to get a 6. Very easy. As I said, I want all of you to get the highest possible grade, because why not? I mean, there's no incentive for me to give you a bad grade. Just do the job and do it interesting, and then we can focus on what's really important, which is here. Thinking together, analyzing these questions, and trying to come up with interesting answers. All right. We're almost out of time, so questions for anyone? One last comment about the OLAT platform. So this is a brand new course that I'm designing, which means that it's a work in progress. So I'm always constantly adapting it and changing it a bit. So go on once in a while onto the OLAT, and I'm adding reading material and references there on the reading list. I mentioned on the OLAT there's no mandatory reading for this class, okay? You should read whatever you're interested in. Read and engage with whatever piques your interest. I'm putting up recommendations for you all to engage with these topics, things that I think are interesting and that stimulate our brain cells. Someone said that here before. So use that. The second thing is the AI news blog. On the OLAP platform, I'm uploading news articles. I try to do it once a day. Sometimes I'll miss. Interesting AI news going on. You can read that and sort of engage with these topics. I'm trying to put on what I think are most interesting and controversial issues. And you can comment on it if you feel like it. It's not obligatory, but if you want, you can comment on it. Or if you found something really fascinating, you can upload it yourself onto the OLAP page, okay? So feel free to do that. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So thank you very much, and I'll see you all next week.